Alright, so first things first, you're going to want to take your lug nuts off. I got an impact, but if you don't have an impact, just crack them loose on the ground and then jack the vehicle up. A good idea here is going to put the wheel up underneath the frame, so just in case anything does happen, it's just going to fall on the frame and it won't fall on you. Alright, so then what you're going to want to do, take these 3/8 Allen bolts off the top and bottom of the caliper, get a 5-gallon bucket and set your caliper on the bucket so it's not hanging by the brake line. You're probably going to have to use a pry bar here, just wedge it up underneath the brake caliper and pull up on it. Just get it out of there. If your brake pads fall out, that's fine, don't worry about it. Just put them up here on your 5-gallon bucket along with your hardware. Then you're just going to want to take your rotor off. And then after you get that off, you're going to want to take off the cotter pin that holds on this axle nut. Pop this little cover of the nut off, and then 36mm socket, and take the axle nut off. It's a truck, so go ahead and put all the nuts and bolts together, keep them kind of in the same category, and just put them in the bed of the truck. Alright, you can pretty much bet this is not going to work, but we're going to try it for you guys, the people. Here it goes. Yeah, no, I ain't going. Alright, here's what we got going on. You're going to need something big. It's going to be either a big metal pipe or something like that. Kind of got it sitting on a tire there to keep it from twisting. We got it wedged up in some of the studs. Now you're going to want to put either a cloth or something in there, a block of wood if you can fit it, anything that's going to keep it from galling up the studs. Got a 1/2-inch ratchet, Harbor Freight for the win. Let's see if she'll take it. 36mm socket, a hitch, 2.5-ton jack. We're just going to jack it up. 2.5 tons pressure should crack it loose. So here we go. Alright, so you got this little washer thing you're going to have to fish out. Get a pick, screwdriver, whatever you got to do. Alright, so then next step is going to be, it's kind of up to you. I'm going to start with the top ball joint because we just replaced it. It's going to be easy. The bottom ball joint we'll get to in a minute. It's going to be a little more complicated, but we'll get it done. Alright, cool. Alright, so you got to get up under here, and you're going to get that cotter pin out and that nut off. Then we can go ahead and press the ball joint out. Alright, so basically, all you're going to have to do here is get that top cotter pin off for the upper ball joint, take that nut off, and then the same thing with the bottom here. You're going to take the cotter pin out, then take the nut off. You might as well do them both at the same time. Try your best not to cut the cotter pins into 3 pieces. They sell them at Advanced Auto Parts, but just try your best not to. Alright, so now what you gotta do is take the cotter pin off the tie rod end and take the nut off. You gotta get like your boy be chilling on the tire, breaking cotter pins. Good idea here. Buy one of these at Harbor Freight, $5, and just kind of have a tally of everything. Kind of keep everything in a corner, in the middle, or whatever you got to do to make sure you put them all back in the right place. Alright, so what you're going to do not hit the top of the tie rod, definitely don't hit the boot, and definitely don't hit the threads. Hit what it goes through. Shout out to Eric the car guy. The bigger the hammer, the better. Alright, or your axle will just fall out. That works too. That was not scripted, guys. Okay, that works too. Alright, so what we had to do was we took a pry bar, wedged it up underneath the tie rod, and pushed up while one of us hit on the side of it, and it popped right out. Now we just got to worry about getting the bottom ball joint loose. What you're going to do here after you take the nut and cotter pin off is you're going to hit as close as you can to the ball joint, but hit the lower A-arm. And you can, what sometimes we do is you can put a jack up underneath where the stud is on the ball joint, you know, push it up to where it's about level so you got plenty of force on it, and then hit the side and it will pop right out. what you're going to do now is you're going to have 6 bolts on the axle holding it to the differential housing. I have an impact and a wobble extension and a 15mm. Looks like you can get to it with a wrench or a ratchet with a long extension and a wobble. It's up to you, whatever you have on hand. Alright, so what we're having to do here is, our impact wasn't strong enough, hopefully yours is, but if it's not, ours was broken, so you grab a pair of channel locks, hold on to it, and then have another guy get it loose. If your boot and everything is still intact, you might be able to just hold on to the whole assembly while he's turning it. Ours is pretty old and it's probably never been apart, so it's a little bit more difficult than yours probably will be, but gotta do whatever means necessary. Alright, so on these S10s, they kind of cram that flanged. This is an older style, so it's got the 6 bolts holding it on. It's a 7 1/4 front end, and I guess this is the older style, so it's got that big flange on it. They kind of cram it into this S10, but what you can do, after you get it free, we used a flathead screwdriver and a hammer to kind of pry the rust off. What you do, you pull it toward you, and then all you're going to have to do is wedge the pry bar in between the two and push your bump stop out of the way, and just be pulling it at the same time and it'll pop right out. Alright, so after you get your 6 bolts back in the flange, like I said before, get it pushed in as far as you can past this little part of the bump stop, then use a pry bar to wedge that out of the way, pop it in, get those 6 bolts on, get your hub lined back up. We just use an impact and buzz that down, and then all you have to do is put your little cap back on and get your cotter pin bent back up. Then it's basically going to be move the brake caliper back over to the other side. I don't think I showed that, but I moved it to that side to clear out a little more room. Brake caliper to this side, upper ball joint, lower ball joint. Then it should be good. Alright, then you're just going to go ahead and put your bottom ball joint nut back on and put your cotter pin in. Like I said, if you cut them, it's no big deal. Get them in advance. You can probably get them at any parts store. It's Dorman. It comes in a set. It's like $3. So if you're like Drew over here, he cuts them all. So just go ahead and buy new ones. Alright, so to get your upper ball joint in, you kind of want to line it up. What I do is get the bottom ball joint in, and I jack it up right on that stud. Make sure it's not on your dust shield for your brakes. All you gotta do is jack it up, and then push it to get your upper ball joint in. Alright, so then you basically just gotta get your tie rod on, get your nut on, cotter pin, and brake rotor's going back on, brake caliper, you're done. Alright, so all you gotta do now, put these caliper bolts back in, put your wheel on,